Sarah pulled up to the house. It was a grand old Victorian, but time and neglect had taken their toll. The paint peeled, windows were boarded, and the garden was overgrown. It was isolated, miles from the nearest town. Sarah shivered. It was just a house, she told herself, her new home. She stepped inside. The air was thick with dust and the smell of damp. A strange feeling washed over her, a prickle of unease. Sarah shook it off. She had work to do. She had bought the house cheap, but it needed a lot of work. She was determined to make it her own. The locals in the nearby town were a superstitious bunch. They told tales of the old house on the hill, whispering of a family that had met a tragic end within its walls. Sarah tried to ignore them. She didn't believe in ghosts. But the stories played on her mind. As days turned into weeks, she started to notice things. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of her eyes. Floorboards creaked when no one was around. Sarah told herself it was the wind, the age of the house. But a seed of doubt had been planted. One night, Sarah woke with a start. She could have sworn she heard someone calling her name. A whisper, faint but clear. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. The house was silent. She tried to dismiss it as a dream, but the next night it happened again. The whisper, her name echoing in the darkness. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was not alone. Something was in the house with her. Determined to find a logical explanation, Sarah began to investigate. She searched the house from top to bottom. Attic to basement, she checked every nook and cranny. There was no sign of an intruder. The noises continued. Footsteps in the hallway, the soft click of a door closing. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Sarah was starting to lose her nerve. Fear was a constant companion. Section 5. The Cracked Mirror. One day while cleaning the attic, Sarah found an old mirror hidden under a dusty sheet. It was cracked down the middle, the silvering tarnished with age. She hesitated, then pulled the sheet away. As she looked into the mirror, she noticed a dark figure standing behind her reflection, her breath caught in her throat. She spun around, but there was no one there. The figure in the mirror was gone. Had she imagined it? Or was it something more sinister? Section 6. Trapped. The haunting intensified. The whispers turned to screams. Objects moved on their own. Sarah was living in a nightmare. She tried to escape, but every time she reached the front door, it slammed shut. The windows wouldn't open. She was trapped. Panic set in. She was a prisoner in her own home. The house was closing in on her, suffocating her. She was alone, with only the shadows and the whispers for company. Section 7. The Haunting Truth. Exhausted, Sarah collapsed on the floor. She looked up at the cracked mirror. Her reflection stared back, her face pale and drawn, and then she saw it. The dark figure stood behind her, its face obscured by shadows. It reached out, its hand disappearing into the mirror. The touch sent a jolt of terror through her. She screamed, scrambling back, but it was too late. The shadows were all around her, pulling her down into the darkness. Section 8. Empty house, full of fear. The old Victorian house stood on the hill, silent and empty. Dust gathered on the furniture and cobwebs hung from the chandeliers. No one dared to go near it. The stories of the haunting had spread, whispered in hushed tones. The house was a shell, a reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls, but something lingered there, hidden in the shadows. Section 9. Forever Trapped. A young couple new to the area stopped their car in front of the house. They had heard the stories, but they didn't believe them. They cautiously approached the front door. The man reached out and turned the handle. It creaked open. As they stepped inside, they noticed a cracked mirror leaning against the wall. The woman shivered, and then she saw it. A face in the mirror, a woman's face, pale and filled with a deep, abiding sorrow. The face of Sarah, trapped forever within the glass.